folks that are coming out of college like don't necessarily embrace that agility in the ways they want all the answers because they've had Google at their fingertips. They know where the answer lies.
Yes.
And we have to embrace our curiosity, and we have to embrace our agility, and we have to be comfortable taking calculated risks if we want to have fun in our job.
Welcome back to Innovate or Evaporate, where we explore the relentless pace of change and the innovators who drive it. I'm your host, Toph Day, and today we have Kimberly Storen, the Chief Marketing Officer at Zoom, a company that has fundamentally changed how we work and live. Kimberly is a true marketing leader who has scaled marketing organizations at companies of all sizes and is now at the forefront of modern communications landscape. I'm so excited to learn more what's next for Zoom. But first, Kimberly, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. We're here at Rally, and you just came off stage a little bit ago.
I did.
I want to dive into that a little bit later on today's podcast. I'm so stoked. I'm an avid Zoom user. Absolutely love Zoom. And I'm just thinking back through the COVID days. But before we get to the Zoom and all the cool stuff, I want to go back in time a little bit because I think your journey is fascinating. You are the CMO at Zoom today.
Yep.
But you have been in management consulting, in other roles that I think are in a really interesting, incredible foundation to now run marketing for a major company. So can we go backwards in time a little bit? You grew up in Austin. Tell us about that journey, how you got to the East and West Coast.
Yeah, absolutely. So I always found that I like to be a problem solver. And so even back, reverting back to college, I studied management information systems, and I found out I was a pretty subpar programmer. But what I was
I don't know how to code at all, by the way.
Oh, I knew it all. Visual Basic and Pascal and COBOL and all the things.
All the good
C++. But what I realized is I was really good at translating from business requirements to tech requirements and then backwards. And so that actually ended up propelling my career, where I started my career in crisis management and communications in a client service kind of realm. And I found I was a really good problem solver. I could do the tactics, but it was really, I felt the strategy and the vision that set me apart. Even at 22 years old, I just understood complexity in a different way than I felt like a lot of my peers did. And so after I went to business school, I joined Deloitte Consulting and did M&A, focusing on employee experience, customer experience, some brand work in there as well. Had the opportunity to work on quite a few acquisitions. I was the queen of chocolate for a while, so I worked on a couple of acquisitions at Nestle. I worked on a divestiture of Godiva from Campbell's Soup, and then also started to get into tech. And ultimately, that was what propelled me to go into B2B technology in particular, was that I felt like the challenge and the strategic mindset was really needed in that space. It's a really, it's an interesting part of the technology landscape. It is a way more emotional decision than a lot of people think, and ultimately, I found that like my skill set just really fit well for the challenges of B2B tech.
Yes.
And so I went into B2B tech through M&A and found my way into marketing from there, and had the opportunity to do some pretty big brand transformations at large, well-known companies like AMD and IBM, and then also tried a little bit of startup and PE-backed organizations as well. So give me a good challenge. And
what I love about this is the Rally is all about cross-sector, right? And disparate stakeholders. I mean, your journey, your career path is that's by definition.
That's for sure.
Cross-sector, right?
Absolutely.
All these different spaces. Is there anything that, with those different experiences, that you're able to take from like AMD or Campbell's, two very different businesses, and parlay those into, an idea, a methodology, a way of attacking things that you were able to take cross-sector with you and apply it to a different industry? Anything come to mind?
So, I think the biggest thing that I learned from all of my client service work, even early on in PR and crisis communications, is is the curiosity lens. So you have to get ramped up quickly when you are in client service, whether it's management consulting or advisory or PR, et cetera. And I've found that ability to be able to ask the right questions has really served me well, and to listen, right? To understand and listen to those experts, because I never was the expert. I knew what I was doing when it came to communications or to M&A, but I would have to jump in and learn things quick. I remember being at my brother's wedding in Idaho and getting a phone call that, on Monday I had to be out in the middle of nowhere, Tennessee, because I was going to be pitching a deal for a coal mining acquisition. And I didn't know anything about coal mining. And so in the span of, 2 days over the weekend,
this is awesome. I love
I
it.
had to learn about what coal mining was all about. Right. And, you figure out how to tap into your network, figure out who you can talk to in 48 hours, and how to get smart enough to be able to sit down, have a business conversation that also lends itself to the frameworks and the experience that you've had in your discipline.
Yes.
But that curiosity and hearing, others' experience and their stories and their outcomes, and being able to learn quickly and ask those right questions really ended up serving me well. And I think that's why I've gravitated towards highly complex businesses. I've done work in semiconductors plus ecosystem plus software plus servers at IBM, and now in a space with Zoom where we span everything from your parents use Zoom to Fortune 10 companies use Zoom, right? And so the complexity of the enterprise sales cycle, as well as the SMB or freemium sales cycle as well. So it's an interesting mix of product-led growth and sales-led growth at the same time.
That's fascinating. You were in PR and crisis communications before
business school.
In business school.
Yeah.
And then, so what'd you do before management consulting?
I went to business school. So I did PR, and then that was my foray. I actually got to do an acquisition as a PR consultant that really whet my appetite to go back to business school and get that entire experience and learn all the functions.
Did you go from management consulting straight to Zoom?
No. So that's in between. That's where I really dove into B2B. So I spent time at AMD, IBM, and then also in a startup and PE-backed companies as well.
That's amazing. So the Zoom story is fascinating. And sometimes crisis can create companies or break companies. Zoom, really timing. Yeah. I mean, you have to have a good product, of course, but COVID, for all the difficulty that calls for many, many people, Zoom really catapulted,
absolutely,
and skyrocketed. And I just can't imagine what that was like in the office. And I know you weren't there yet, but but you probably talked to some folks. Anything you can share or come to mind about that journey that Zoom was in that hyper growth phase, and stuff was breaking every day probably, and you're scrambling to get more servers spun up and all those kinds of things. Anything you can share with us about that?
Well, I mean, I think it's a really interesting case study. So our founder and CEO, who's still at Zoom, came from WebEx, and he was a product manager. Yep. He was a VP of product at WebEx, and he understood product inside and out. And he wanted to build a better collaboration and productivity platform. And that's what he did at Zoom. Zoom actually went public in 2019, so even before the pandemic.
Yes.
And it was built for the enterprise. But when COVID hit, the organization basically turned on a dime to support everyone, to make sure that schools could turn on virtual learning in a matter of days, to ensure that corporate organizations were able to get their folks online wherever they might be in the matter of days. Things that would have taken a few weeks or a few months to implement.
Yes.
Zoom was turning that on in 48 hours. And so you really saw that this platform that was built for the enterprise, so it's secure and private, privacy is important and resiliency is important, all of these things that were really enterprise, purpose-built for the enterprise, but it became a consumer product. It became a verb, right? Use Zoom.
Absolutely.
Right? We have a generation called the
Zoomers. I use emails all the
Zoomers.
time, right? When you're available, and I'll send you a Zoom.
Right. And you've got an entire generation called Zoomers now, right? And they really grew up with Zoom as their primary point of collaboration and communication in many ways. And so the company really felt the pressure to be able to serve all of these audiences and to be the glue that held the world together effectively during this unprecedented time in our history. And it was a challenge, right? It really pushed company culture because the company was small prior to that and really focused on the enterprise. And so it pushed company culture. The company had to hire thousands and thousands of people during the pandemic, right? Tomorrow. And we've done a great job of really, anchoring on our culture and continuing the transparency and breaking down the silos that was always part of Zoom's company culture. But it was challenging in the pandemic. It was growing at such an unprecedented pace that it really pushed the teams to the limit. And if you listen to any of Eric's podcasts, he talks about the how hard that was for the culture, for the employees, for the leaders.
Yes.
But also they felt that responsibility to the world in that time. And that commitment to doing what's right for the customer is pervasive in our culture even today. So we really take that seriously of building those solutions that meet the needs of our customers, whether those are SMB customers or, the biggest enterprises in the world.
So I didn't realize that Zoom started off focused on enterprise and not consumer.
He came from WebEx.
So do you think that, I love this, I mean, talk about pivots, et cetera. So was Zoom one of the only folks that stepped up and said, hey, we're going to provide this solution, and other platforms didn't? And literally that one single do what's right concept by moving on a dime is what led to it, because nobody else really stepped up to say, hey, here's a product to help people.
Right.
I didn't realize that inflection point.
And that customer commitment is still embodied today in everything that we do.
That's magical. That's amazing. That's brilliant. Very seldom. It's very hard. Well, product is very hard. I mean, number one, right? And building for enterprise or PLG or whatever type of product motion you're trying to build, to build a product that you can go both ways is that's no small feat.
Well, and now I think, our biggest challenge is because our brand holds a very special place in many people's hearts and minds around being the tool of connection and collaboration during a time where that was a challenge, that now as the CMO at Zoom, I face the challenge of telling the world that we're not just meetings.
Yes.
People don't realize that we have an employee engagement platform, that we have a customer support, customer experience platform, that we do webinars and events, not just virtual webinars, but also hybrid events as well. So there's so much under the Zoom portfolio umbrella that people don't even realize. And then even when you look at our platform, people are used to dialing into that meeting, but the folks that are really using Zoom to its full capabilities are the ones that are using our scheduler tool.
Yep.
The ones that are using the whiteboard tool, the ones that are using our AI companion every day. And we've really done a great job of looking at the overall meeting workflow and figuring out how we make your, whoever you are as the customer, your meeting workflow more efficient and productive, and make sure that we're helping you drive to progress, whatever that progress might be for you, right? Whether you're an SMB or an enterprise. And so that's the biggest challenge that Zoom has right now. Our brand is almost a double-edged sword because we're so known for that meetings platform, but we're not really known yet for all of the other things that we do.
So was that your charge when you came in as CMO roughly a year ago?
About 6 months ago,
6 months ago? So what was your mandate when you came in as CMO?
Bring the swagger back to the brand and make sure that the world knows that we're more than meetings.
Right. So how do I, as a consumer, if I'm using your product, how do I become aware of these other products that are available to me? Is that through the platform, or do you have direct sales folks that are reaching out?
A little bit of everything. So we've got, the platform, information messaging is all there. We have, a pretty strong email cadence with all of our users as well, letting them know about the new features. Last week was our Zoomtopia event where we launched new AI features on stage that we've been communicating. So we really look to find all of the different ways to be in front of our customers to let them know about the new features that are right at their fingertips. Right? I've had people come up to me and say, like, I couldn't even believe that I can replace Calendly with the Zoom scheduler. I didn't realize that I could, replace Notion with Zoom Docs.
Can I start taking notes? Because I didn't realize this stuff.
Yes, exactly.
Go back and put this into action.
And so, for small businesses especially, but even for, larger mid-market and enterprise, like, we're able to help consolidate the apps that you're using and have it all be in the meetings workflow, which just makes you more productive and drives your outcomes.
Absolutely. Okay, I'm gonna have to go look into this more. I've learned like several new things right there. This is awesome. So let's talk about marketing in general. How do you think about like marketing? I believe is just such a complex. It's becoming more and more complex. It seems like every month that goes by,
right?
There's so many channels. How do you break through? Now you're a little farther along, not a little. You're a lot farther along than most companies. But how do you think about SEO and paid and social and influencers, and how do you think about all these various channels as a whole with your business? Like, what do you think is becoming obsolete? Where is it easy to waste a lot of money if you're not looking at the right metrics? Just high level, how do you think about that?
So overall, I mean, the world is changing. What's happening today is not what was happening 10 days ago, which was not happening 6 months ago.
Yep.
And so agility becomes even more important. I do believe in an insourced and outsourced model because you do have to stay on top of the trends.
Yes.
And, SEO and GEO and AEO are completely different.
Yep.
We're seeing more than 50% of people now are starting their discovery through an LLM. And 3 months ago, that was 100%. In the 20% range.
Yes.
So that's changing so quickly. And it means as marketers that we have to be thinking about how do we show up. If that's where 50% of the people are starting their discovery process, how are we making sure that we're marketing to those LLMs?
Yes.
And that means, yes, absolutely, your website has to change, right? You've got to have FAQs. You've got to be building content that is easily discoverable for those LLMs. Absolutely. But brand becomes ever more important. So PR is having a renaissance. Media is having a challenge overall, but PR is having a real renaissance. Earned media is one of the first places that those LLMs are scraping.
Yep.
Brand is having a renaissance. Experiential events is having a renaissance. And I think, ultimately, we have all, as marketers, pivoted a little bit too hard into performance marketing and forgotten that great demand gen starts with great brands and a strong brand moat. And it ends with great product marketing that takes away, all of your resistance and your questions.
Yes. And
so you can't look at performance marketing or demand gen in a silo anymore. You really have to think about it as that full funnel and where the world is shifting, especially in terms of AI. You're going to see more and more requirements to really get back to the basics of good marketing. Like, what is good SEO? It's good content.
Right.
What is good AEO and GEO? It's good earned media. It's good brand investments. And so I think it's going to really push us back to, marketing the full funnel in a way that we haven't in a while.
I think you hit on something interesting there. Having like good product. I'm surprised at how many founders, especially in the early days, and maybe this never goes away, but actually using your own product, and meeting with the customer and watching them use your product. And there's so many, if there's glitches, like we're so used to picking up these phones today and everything is so easy and it just works with a click, click, click. And so how closely do you work with like your product team or?
Very closely. And Zoom, like we really view ourselves as customer zero.
Yeah.
Right. So we end up, doing the beta on every product that we have. Like if we can't adopt it internally at Zoom, how do we expect to roll this out to customers at large?
Right.
And so there's a lot of work that we do internally to test, provide feedback to the product team, and really work with them to make sure that those products are ready for prime time.
Yeah.
And from a product marketing standpoint, we are attached at the hip to product managers. And I really view marketing's job to be the voice of the market as much as it is to be the voice to the market.
Right.
And product marketing is in many ways that voice of the market. That's where the competitive insights come from. That's where the analyst relations happens. That's where the research is really driven from, is product marketing. And it's such a critical function within the marketing org.
Let's go to the people side.
Yeah.
So you're in a high pressure environment and, entrepreneurship, being with a scale up company, a growth company, a mature company, a technology company, like these things are so exciting, but they're so exhausting. And so how do you think about, like, as you're growing your teams, you're bringing on these rock stars, and how do you like provide or make room for balance, between the professional and the personal life? Because it's easy to work around the clock, but that's not sustainable.
Yeah.
And so how do you think about that with team building and avoiding burnout?
So I like to think of it less as balance and more as integration. And I think that that's one of the things that technology has enabled. And for some folks, that brings a whole different level of potential burnout.
Yeah.
For me personally, it brings me a lot more flexibility and freedom. Zoom and my mobile phone and all of these apps that allow me to stay connected also allow me to spend time with my family, and they allow me to be able to go run when I want to go run, and to do the other things, to volunteer and be part of the community when I need to, and yet still stay connected.
Yeah.
And so for me, like, it ultimately comes down to, how am I thinking about that integration? How am I blocking my time, right? I treat my focus time, I treat my personal time like it's a Zoom meeting, right? Yeah. I block my calendar. and that allows for me to spend the time. I'm a long distance runner, and I like to make sure that I'm staying healthy, not just because of the health benefits, but I also think I'm a more creative and attentive leader.
Yes.
So getting that time outdoors every single morning and spending time with my family is really critical, but I have to be able to integrate it. And for me, it's less about turning it on, turning it off than it is about being able to put it all together.
What would you tell our next generation coming out of high school, maybe even still in high school, and those in college, and as they are thinking about in their internships, their careers? What are a couple of things that maybe aren't talked about enough that really matter, like as they start their careers, what employers are looking for if they don't want to start their own business and they want to get on a hyper growth company? What should they be thinking about that people aren't talking about?
So I think one of the the biggest lessons that I had kind of growing up and building my career was really understanding what accountability means and delineating that from the idea of responsibilities.
Yeah.
And I feel that there's a lot of talk now about the RACI models.
Yes.
And who owns what and who does what. And ultimately what's made not just even me successful, but what has made me enjoy my work and want to get up every morning and do it again is because I embrace the accountability. I want to own that revenue. I want to own the business outcome, but I'm not stuck in what my responsibilities are. And so some days that means I'm jumping on the phone with customers. Some day that means I'm rolling up my sleeves and writing a press release. Someday that means I'm, spending time with all of our team members and employees. But I think so many times we get caught up now in whose job is it versus staying focused on the North Star that we're all responsible for and being open-minded to finding different roles and responsibilities within that model to make an impact. And ultimately, that agility, as coupled with curiosity and coupled with this idea of being able to take calculated risk, has helped me become a transformational leader. And I think sometimes folks that are coming out of college don't necessarily embrace that agility in the ways they want all the answers because they've had Google at their fingertips, right? They know
this is powerful.
Where the answer lies.
Yes.
And we have to embrace our curiosity and we have to embrace our agility and we have to be comfortable taking calculated risks if we want to have fun in our job.
I love that. I think it's very interesting. You grew up with Google, everything's at your fingertips, always have the answer. You're not going to have all the answers in life. I've never thought about about accounting, accountability and responsibility just being distinctly different.
Yeah.
That's really magical and powerful. We're coming to the end here, and I've got some rapid fire questions I want to ask you. But is there anything we haven't touched on that you really want to make sure you share with our audience today?
No, I think we've hit on everything. I love it.
So, and I love you keep talking about curiosity because that's the theme of Rally this year.
Yeah.
Is creative curiosity, and it really is so magical. Like we can never stop asking questions, right? Listening more than we talk, right? Like all those things are so true. All right, well, so I have a few rapid fire questions.
Okay,
be one word or multiple sentences, however they hit you. But what is one thing in your industry that you think people should stop doing?
I think that they should stop treating marketing like a cost center and instead treat it like a profit center.
Yeah. I love that. That's powerful. What is one thing, process, or habit that you think leads to the best ability to disrupt yourself?
If you think about asking the question, what if, in every single meeting that you're in, and, not being that obnoxious, devil's advocate, but instead kind of pushing the question, what if, in a constructive and productive way.
Right.
I think that curiosity really drives disruption.
Yeah.
In a good way.
Yes.
And so I would say, always ask that question in every meeting.
If you could solve one problem in the world, anything at all, if you solve one problem in the world with innovation, what would it be?
I would say I've been hanging out with my CEO, Eric Yuan, a little bit too much, but a digital twin.
Wow. I like that. That's awesome. Anything else that we haven't talked about today that you want to share with our audience?
No, I think I would just kind of leave everyone with this idea that we're in the world of AI. We're in the world of AI everywhere, but AI doesn't replace creativity. It can spark it. Yep. But it doesn't replace it. And I think ultimately connection is the foundation of progress. And when people connect, whether that's through ideas, empathy, collaboration, that everything that you're doing just really can accelerate. And I think using technology, platforms like Zoom, not to do a product plug there, right, can really help take the mundane elements of your day out of the equation so that you can focus on the strategy, the outcomes, the revenue that you're trying to drive for your business.
Yep.
And so I would just say, find that connection, right? Find that curiosity. Don't let AI disrupt your creativity. Let it spark your creativity.
I love that. I love that. Well, I am going to do a product plug because I love your product. If you're not using Zoom yet, you should definitely check it out. It makes everything go so much smoother.
And try our AI companion.
Yes, absolutely. Kimberly Storen, the CMO of LinkedIn. Oh my goodness, of Zoom. Cut.
I'm on LinkedIn.
Cut that. Kimberly Storen, the CMO of Zoom. You're absolutely a disruptor and innovator.
Thank you.
I love the things you've said today, thinking about marketing as a profit center, as a revenue center versus a cost center. Absolutely brilliant. I totally believe that. Thank you so much for joining us here at Rally. Thank you for joining us at Innovate or Evaporate.
Thank you so much for having me. This was fun.
All right. Until next time, we'll see y'all soon.